30-year-old Australian real estate development fund Hickory made the move into data centers last June, joining a growing number of new businesses betting in digital infrastructure. The launch of Hickory Data Centres was done with pompous circumstance and brought with it a vision to invest over 1 billion Australian dollars, around 780 million US dollars, to build hyperscale facilities. Now the company is kicking off their expansion projects. Joining me today is Chief Executive Joel O'Halloran to talk through the expansion plans and the current state of the Australian data center markets. Joel, thanks so much for coming on the show. You're breaking ground in Melbourne as we speak. Tell us about these projects. What numbers are we talking about? Square footage, megawatts, and investment. How much money is going into this specific data center?
Yeah. Thanks, Joel. It's a really exciting time for us. We've started development of our first site in Melbourne, in the west of Melbourne this week. It's a total site when built out, which will be 72 megawatts of ICT load, which comprises two 36 megawatt diverse buildings. It's a building, we talk in square meters down under. So it's a building in excess of total building in excess of 50,000 square meters and about 20,000 square meters of technical area.
So it's a massive facility, one of the largest in Australia. Once it's fully built.
Yeah, it most certainly will be, and it's something that we've been quite quick to market in doing. Hickory is a well-established Australian property development and construction company, and coming from a tech background like myself, from infrastructure managed services in particular, and those with some of the other team members that I'm working with, we just found it incredibly advantageous to work with an organisation that really understands construction, understands property development, can access sites really quickly, understands the planning process, and really understands the risks associated with property development. And they're only too keen to get this development underway, and we're really excited to be doing that.
Yeah, well, they've been building since '91, so they do have the experience. Actually, that lets me ask the question that, so where does the money come to pay for the project? Is it your parent company? Is it Hickory, the development firm? Or do you have a different framework when it comes to investment?
Yeah, Hickory will certainly is funding the business. They're our parent company, and it's really Hickory that the founders of the business set out to invest in data centers. They have multiple other, quite a diverse and vertically integrated business, and data centers were a part of the property investment domain that they weren't across. They saw great opportunity there, and they will be funding our initial development. That said, as you know, data centers are pretty capital intensive. So at some point, at the right time, I dare say we will bring on other investors into the business.
Okay, that's interesting. Do you have a time frame? Will you be selling some stock, or you will just be taking in investment? Do you have an idea how that would work?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's really trying to determine the optimal time to do that, and that, that's not something that we necessarily decide ourselves. It's something that we would want to do in collaboration with, potential partners that we would want to bring into the business. And no doubt that would be a combination of debt and equity at some point, I would imagine. But it's not something that we're focused on immediately. What we're really focused on is building a fantastic data center that we can ensure that we've got availability for in Q4 of 2022, and that clients are able to take up capacity in that site.
Okay, interesting. I'll be here to watch when you get to the equity raising part of the journey. But getting back to the immediate present as well. So who is this data center in Melbourne targeted for? Who are the anchor clients? Is it government-led? Do you have an occupancy rate, sorry, I can't even pronounce the word, of space already utilized or bought or lended?
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting question. In the past, and in my experience in the past was that, at least in Australia and some other markets in the world that I've worked in, you're able to engage with clients and understand their requirements for data centers, particularly at big enterprise, And if you secured a site and you had a design and you could work with them around timing, then you could kind of simultaneously contract for a facility and then subsequently build the facility. But I think that times, at least in the Australian market, have gone, and such as the speed requirements that hyperscale clients, who are our key target market, such as the speed requirements they need, capacity, and I guess the risks associated with their forward capacity planning, that I don't think it's easily done where you can contract for a data center without having a data center. So we're fully aware that clients want to see that we have a data center, and that's why that we're undertaking a build. I guess not dissimilar to many of the other developments that Hickory have done for many years. I'm in Melbourne here. You can probably see some of the high-rise buildings behind me. Many of them across the city have been developments that Hickory have done, commercial buildings, and there's a speculative nature to them. So there's a risk appetite within the business to recognise what's required to be in this data centre business. We want to be in this market, and we recognise to do that, we've got to, we were to first build the facility, and believe if we build a good product and offer a good service, which we will, and we're certainly competitive in what we're proposing, that we'll contract with clients in due course.
I'm sure it will come in no time. And I mean, beautiful skyline behind you, and the real one as well, to change from this.
Yes, a real one.
But Joel, so Melbourne is not your only news today. So even though the Melbourne data center development is probably your flagship news of today, you've also acquired some land in Canberra for a 28 megawatts facility. What are the plans for the capital?
Yeah, so that's right. We acquired a site recently and have a planning application underway for a 28 megawatt facility there. It's something that we expect we can have underway sort of Q2, early Q3 of 2022. It's interesting that Australia is a very it's a large continent, but we're very urbanised and tend to live in Sydney cities. So Sydney, Melbourne are large markets. Canberra is the federal capital, and federal government there want to have workloads. A lot of their workloads they want to have in Canberra, and as the federal government accelerates their digital transformation program, we see that there's new requirements for capacity there, driven by shift to hyperscale platforms.
Okay. And then if we look into the Australian data center market, what would you say are the biggest challenges today? So in Europe, we have some challenges with power. In Asia, usually comes down to regulation, especially around land ownership. What are the challenges with Australia?
Well, I think it varies from location to location. There's different considerations that different authorities will take into consideration when assessing a planning application. And we had an absolutely fantastic experience with local government here in Melbourne, and really had state government behind us, recognising that the facility that we've started construction on is a project of state significance. So they were really able to support our planning application and support that through local government really quickly. We've had a great engagement with the power authority. We've got to build a substation or switch yard on site. It's quite a major investment in doing that up front, but we've had terrific engagements with them. But I think it varies from location to location, and there's different. There's three tiers of government in Australia. There's federal, state, and local government, and there's different regulations in each. So I think it can vary. But that said, all governments, I think, uniformly across Australia recognise that data centres are critical assets to drive really the digital transformation of economy. So on a whole, I'd say they're very supportive of such developments. Power, I think, is challenging in many locations. That said, that some of the older industrial heartland of Australia, that's where buildings and manufacturing facilities have moved on and relocated and consolidated. It's enabled us to pick up some power capacity as a consequence. So, I think as a whole, we're pretty well equipped to be able to bring significant capacity to market quickly.
Okay, bit of a side question, because you mentioned the governments have seen the importance of data centers and how they support the digital economy. Do you think the pandemic kind of accelerated that understanding from the government, or was
just like you and I sitting here on a Zoom call, which has just become the standard way in which we all operate now. And while we're all back in the office, well, many of us are back in the office in Australia. In fact, many Australians never left the office in certain states. I think absolutely that recognition of the dependence of digital infrastructure and not just short-term dependence, long-term accelerated dependence on that technology really sees government supporting these developments.
Okay, and Joel, last question, which I'll actually put two questions into one. Let's future of Australian data center market. So 5-10 years time into the future. What do you envision for the sector in your country, and what's Hickory's play going to be? I mean, what pins on the map have you got of where you want to go in and out of Australia as well? Give us an overview of the next 5 to 10 years for Hickory and the national data center market.
So from a Hickory perspective, we really want to build a really strong data center platform, across Australia. We've spoken of 2 sites. The first site construction's commenced in Melbourne. We've acquired a second site in Canberra. We have due diligence underway in 2 other sites in Australia, and we want to build significant capacity in this market. And we see Asia Pacific being a phenomenal growth market as well. I think all the analysts recognize the opportunity in Asia Pacific. That said, we want to prove ourselves here first and demonstrate our credentials, both our construction credentials, property development, and our ability to operate data centers. I think what will probably occur is that we see the market shifting a little. Certainly, there's a lot of capacity coming. We know how much capacity has been announced, new capacity coming into Sydney. But I think the market will change, and this is what we're really about at Hickory, in that we're about providing certainly co-location at a data hall or even a floor level, but as an alternative. Solo colo is something that we've been engaged with clients about and resonates really well with them, where they can take a whole building and have exclusive access to that building themselves, and taking it one step further, even through to the campus or the build to suit campus model. So I think that probably plays to Hickory's strengths, being in the property development and construction space, being that vertically integrated data center operator. We can provide a variety of different solutions to clients. And I think if you look at other markets like North America, what tends to happen there finds its way perhaps to Europe. Certainly it finds its way to Australia. And we fully expect that will happen, and in fact are embracing that and really want to provide that choice to hyperscale clients.
Okay, very interesting. I'll be here to watch what happens in the next 5-10 years, and I'll see where the pins go on the map, especially around Asia. But Joel O'Halloran, CEO of Hickory Data Centres, thank you so much for talking to me. As for you at home, thank you for watching, and do check our website and give us a follow on social media for more breaking and timely news from across the digital infrastructure sector worldwide. At the Tech Capital, you lead, we report. Bye for now.